Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. I am the Inconsequential Runner, and this is part 2 of the video series about me testing my blood glucose levels and what that's meant and the insights that it's given me. I'm going to have a third part to this, and I'll tell you what I'm going to cover in the third part in just a second. And the third, I think, is going to be a final part. But if you haven't seen the first video, I'll put the link of it in the show notes, or the video notes just below the video here, and also in the first comment. But as a super quick recap, I wanted to understand what I was eating and what the effect of what I was eating had on my body in terms of being able to perform, so my sugar levels aren't so high that I'm feeling dizzy while I'm running, or lack of energy, or that the energy dissipates too quickly, and that I'm eating the right things outside of running that help me with my recovery, and basically means that I don't get fat. So if there's two treats and one treat causes my blood sugar to spike and the other one doesn't, then I go, right, that one's going to be my treat when I have a treat, for example, that sort of thing. Those are the insights I wanted. So I bought a blood glucose monitor, and it was less than $30, and it comes with the thing that lances your finger with a whole bunch of replacement lances in it, and also the testing strips that go into the monitor that tells you the number, the rating. What I can tell you then, so I've been doing this now for, I've got all the data, but I didn't bring it up with me, but that's okay, I've written the overview. But I've been doing it now for the best part of 2 weeks. Pricking my finger anything from 6 times to about 15 times a day. So quick tip on that. What it's suggesting is when you prick your finger that you don't do it in the middle, you do it from the sides. Now, because you can do it from the sides, that means each hand you can do 10 pricks. You can draw 10 samples. Yeah, okay. And then, of course, with 2 hands, 10 fingers, you can do 20 samples. So what I do then in the morning is draw an outline of my hands, just tiny diagrams. And each time I took a sample from one side of the finger, I put a little cross on the diagram so I knew where I drew. So I could just systematically go through one hand and then go through the other hand. Because I'm right-handed when I write most of the times, sometimes I write with my left hand. That's a story for another video. I would start with my left hand first, and then my right hand if I needed it later on in the day. So I had a hand plan, and I went through that. So what I've learned, because I've looked at the data, so what I would capture was which sample number it was in the day, what time it was in the day, which is probably more important because then I understand the time gaps between the two, and of course the rating. So it'll be anything from about 4.4, which was the lowest blood sugar level, and the highest I recorded was 8.6. So you average those, or you average all my data out, and you're looking at around about 6. Anything over about 6.7, I'm getting into the higher quartile. So then I know any foods I eat that get me over 6.7, that has caused a blood sugar spike for me. So know this. If my wife eats a donut and I eat that same donut, biologically it's going to have a different effect on our blood sugar levels. So not all foods or all specific food types have a different impact on each of us individually. So we need to find out what works for us, which is why I did this testing. So the other thing I'd record with the time, the test number or the sample number, and the number of the blood glucose, which is millimoles per liter. So a mole is a unit of glucose, and then a millimole is 1,000th of that unit per liter. And so when you get that number 5.6, that's what it means. But you don't need to know what it means. You just look at the numbers and you know how the numbers all interrelate to each other. But the other thing I recorded, thank you, you've been super patient with me, is of course what I ate and when. So then I could see the spike that happened after it. Now, pricking your fingers has given me good insight in terms of, basic level. Certainly when I wake up in the morning and I've fasted during the night and I take that morning test and the data I get on that is between 4.4 and 5.1, I know what my baseline is in the morning. So what my natural sort of baseline is. But when you're pricking your finger a lot during the day, there's a lot of data points you feel like sometimes you're missing out on. So sometimes you want to, after a meal, get a reading every 15 minutes or every half an hour, and sometimes you forget and you miss one. And then you're wondering what that rating was, what that number was between those 2 points you did capture. So where I'm going with that is probably what I do next is get a CGM, so a continuous glucose monitor, and it's a little tab that just like a plastic tab that goes on your arm. You can wear it in other places, but most people put it on the back of their arm, and basically it does a glucose reading every 2 minutes and sends that data through, and it captures it over 14 days. I'm not going to do that yet. I'm still understanding the ins and outs of this, but once I feel like I'm comfortable, because those things, they are quite expensive, they're about $200, and I want to make sure they're regularly available too. The glucose monitor I used is super available. You just go to a chemist and you pick it up there. So I know I'm not interfering with the supply of these monitors to anyone who needs it more than I, someone with diabetes. But with the continuous glucose monitors, I understand that they might be in short supply in cycles. So I want to buy one where there's an excess of supply, so I'm not taking it away from anyone else. Because I don't need it, this is just insight for me. So I'm conscious of that. So if you're looking to do this, the finger prick units, they're plentiful. Don't worry about that. You're not taking away from anyone else. The continuous glucose monitor, yeah, just do a little bit of research on that because that's what I understand. Okay, so the 14-day plan, what that means is I'd have 14 different foods that I'd eat every morning. So I'd fast overnight, get up, understand my baseline data because it captures it every 2 minutes. Then I'd eat something and then I'd eat nothing else for 3 hours to see what that thing does. So I'd plan over those 14 days specific foods. So it might be 14 different food things, or it might be 7, but I'm doing each one twice to, just maybe make the data a bit more robust so I understand. So it might be your pre-race meals. You might want to get those locked down. So you think, right, peanut butter, almond Vogels with a banana. And then you might do that 2 days in a row. And then you might go, well, hold on, peanut butter and Vogel and banana, but on a bagel, and see if that makes a difference. And if one causes a spike and the other one's flatter, depending on the types of events that you're doing, you might go, hey, I want to go with the flatter sugar spike, especially if you're doing something longer distance, which Coach Mark and I talk about in the Jowls video, which we've released some time back. So check that out. And we talk about it there. But that would be my next step, the 14-day thing. But before I get there, before I feel like I've got everything lined up and I plan my whole 14-day diet, because that's how long those continuous glucose monitors last, 2 weeks. So I want to make sure, the experiment, and it would be an experiment, is lined up properly over those 14 days. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to capture data, and the data is going to be this. I wrote it down somewhere and I left it somewhere, but I'm pretty sure I'll remember it. So I finish eating dinner before 7 p.m. at night. So what I'm going to do, and I try to go to bed around about 9 o'clock. Sometimes I'm successful, sometimes it's a bit later than that. It depends if I start watching Netflix or not. If I start watching Netflix, it's going to be later than that. But what I'm going to do, dinner finishes at 7. I'm going to take my reading at 9 every night. So it's going to be at least 2 hours after dinner. Then I'm going to record how long I slept for, and also how long I fasted until my next meal. And I'm going to record my blood glucose rating in the morning and my weight. So what I'm going to be asking is this, basically, with all those bits of data, is what is my sugar level in my blood at 9 o'clock after I've eaten for 2 hours? What is it at 9 o'clock? And when I measure it in the morning, every time at 6 a.m., what's it come down to and what is my weight? So I'm looking for a correlation, because what I might find is if I get a bit too desserty at nighttime and my blood sugar level is higher, then what I might see is my weight tends to go up when and you can't look at a single piece of data, but if I do that for a week, and if my average blood sugar when I go to bed is say 6.4, but for that week, around about Christmas time or something like that, I'm going to bed with an average of 7.5, continuously for a week, it's at least 7.5 when I go to bed. So when I wake up in the morning and I measure at 6, it's higher than it usually is, and I see my weight is increasing, then I know, well, hold on, whoa. What that means is the amount of sugar I've got in my blood when I go to bed at night seems to have an effect on my weight, which means weight gain, the energy's got nowhere else to go, so it's converted to fat. That's what I'm going to do. And what that means is I'm only having to prick my finger a couple of times a day. So in the morning to get my baseline, and then at the evening to see what my sugar level is before I go to bed, and then capture that data over time. So yeah, individual days won't mean anything, but I'll be looking for the trends, the strength of correlation between the data over time. That's what I'm going to do next. That's the next stage. So if you want to come along to part 3, that's what I'm going to cover off in part 3. I don't know when I'm going to land that video, because I'm going to want pretty substantive amount of data. Know how data works. I need a pretty substantive amount, a strong sample, so I can, well, not extrapolate, but infer from it some pretty strong conclusions. So things that offer me 95% of certainty. So yeah, direct correlation, causation. So that's what I'm going to do next. Understanding the relationship between the amount of sugar in my blood that I take to bed overnight, what that reduces to in the morning, and how that relates to my body weight. Now, ideally, I wouldn't want it to relate to body weight, because body weight, there's a number of components in that. Hydration is one, of course. The other one is lean muscle mass, bone density, all of that. What I'd love to do is just be able to understand my fat percentage. And I've got some scales that do that. They're a little bit dodgy, so I don't trust them. So yeah, so I'll go with body weight, because I know whatever number it gives me on body weight, it is accurate. That is my actual weight. We'll see. I'll know. I think intuition has a part to play in this too. But that's it. That's what I'm going to cover off in the 3rd part. So you know what to do. If you like this video, hit like. If you think it could help someone else, share it with them. If you want to stay in the loop, especially for the 3rd part, hit subscribe. And if you want to understand more about the kit and how I tested it and what it looks like to test and get a reading, draw a sample and get a reading and all of that, go see the first video, for which I'll put the link in the notes. Thank you so much for your patience. I share everything I remember to share, so I hope in this best part of 13 minutes, I haven't rambled too much, but it's 13 minutes of rich insight if you want to go down this path. If you don't want to go down this path, this is going to mean nothing to you. If you do, it's going to save you a lot of time. Yeah. Okay, take care, enjoy your running, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye, team.